People who quit their jobs on the first day, what was the reason? Fast food chain. I was 17. I found out during training that the place had been robbed 3 times in the past month and one employee was seriously injured. Not worth the $5 an hour. Salesman for Kirby Vacuums. First sale call was to a single elderly woman who was supporting her son in hospital, a free carpet clean as a demonstration. The supervisor training me pushed and pushed to make the sale until this old woman was in tears. Just as she was about to sign the paperwork, I asked if she actually wanted to vacuum, and she said it was lovely, but she couldn't afford it. I took the paperwork away from her and said not to worry. Outside, I told the supervisor I quit, to which he replied, I would have been fired anyway. No love lost. I hung around for half an hour playing on my phone to make sure the supervisor left because he was a real piece of work. Your like and subscription will really help my channel. My very first job was at a little drive-in restaurant close to my high school. I showed up to work the first day. The boss said I had to pay her $50 for training. She showed me around the place and said that my pay would be $4.50 per hour as a car hop, and all the tips I made went into a bucket with all the other girls' tips. At the end of the night, she counted up tips, kept 20% for herself, and split the rest up evenly among every employee. Also, part of our job was 1 day a week we had to spend 4 hours cleaning her house. It seemed super shady. I literally left after listening to her go over all these rules. Took a summer job at a textile plant, and the trainer said, forget about taking a break if you want to stay caught up. Shitty motel gig in North Carolina when I was young and desperate for a job. Came in to relieve the cigarette hag overnight lady who told me about the bat she kept beneath the counter, which rooms had the prostitutes and which rooms were for the genuinely lost tourists, how not to give out towels to certain people, how to interact with visitors who are packed 10 people into a room. While she was talking to me, one of the prostitutes came up and paid her with sweaty boob money. Also, they expected me to do laundry and watch out for stray needles. I overheard a man in the lobby on the phone talking about how he had a friend who was in jail and he was going to hire him to finish off his cousin who was in that same jail. I listened to all this and left. I was hired at a chain restaurant to be a hostess. I was so excited because my last job was washing dishes, and because of my eczema, I had to quit. It was too painful to do that job. So I arrived at my new job dressed up to be a hostess, and those dudes took me back to the kitchen to do dishes because the dishwasher just quit. I noped out of there real fast. When the microwave in the lunchroom was coin activated, started a new job unloading shipping containers, and was told they had to be empty by midday. This was imperative because a new one was going to arrive in the early afternoon. It was a 2-man job if we both worked tirelessly to get it done. Boss says, also your offsider's off work today. You will need to get this cleared. I just walked out. Even if it was a trial by fire, I wasn't interested in working for people like that. I got a job at a Build-A-Bear knockoff at the end of a mall that wasn't very busy. I had basically no training. I was standing at the register area, which was underneath a giant storybook mushroom. A mother and her young son walk in and start to look at the bearskin options. I greeted them and left them to look around. They ended up leaving after a couple minutes, and my coworker appeared from the back with the phone and handed it to me. It was my boss. He told me that when a customer walks in, he wants me to come out from under the mushroom to them. After he finished speaking to me, my coworker said the place has cameras set up and the owners watch them from their house and call in a lot. I don't like this kind of control and regulation. I quit and never came back. Went into an Italian restaurant for my first day of work, and I got 3 red flags on the very first day. The manager said he had lots of hours for me and getting shifts would be no problem. Every single other employee told me that they were struggling for hours and that they had no idea why they hired me. Everyone said the manager was an asshole, even the customers. It was my first day there, and I actually had to teach the woman training me how to do several things. Worked in a hotel for a day. No one told me where anything was. Got chewed out for it. Guests enjoying their meals told me to pay no mind, and I was doing a good job, and that my boss is a jerk. I told the manager that I was quitting and wouldn't be doing the next shift. I arrived the next day, returning a work uniform, and my supervisor approached me and yelled at me for being late. I told her I already quit, but if I was working, technically I was 5 hours early for my shift. Absolute nutcases. I interviewed for a professional marketing assistant and got the job straight away. I was under the impression that I would be an assistant to the man I was interviewed by. When I showed up for my first day, the same waiting room I was in the previous day was full of people. I quickly learned that we were all hired and that I would be a door-to-door salesperson selling some pretty useless things. It was a waitress gig for a local restaurant. I finished my first day, then was told that training would continue for 6 weeks. While I was in training, all of the tips I got had had to be given to my trainer. I was being paid less than $2 an hour. I called the next day and said it wasn't going to work out. I delivered pizza for one day. At the end of the day, I did the math and the tips did not cover the gas I used. 30 miles round trip is 1.5 gallons. Also, the people were strange, and they insisted that I call the one black kid who worked there N-word John. Your like and subscription will really help my channel. Thanks a lot for your donations.